Audi RSQ8. What's up, internet world, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm pumped to bring you the Audi RSQ8. And the reason I'm pumped is because this is the first heavy hitter in this class. And I don't mean class of size, I mean class for the big boys for Audi. Because we've got the RS6 Avant coming and the RS7 coming. Not to mention they're having the SQ7 and the S7 coming as well. But this is our first glimpse in the big boys. Thank you V8 bi-turbo that makes 591 horsepower and 590 foot-pounds of torque. That propels this huge beast from 0 to 62 in 3.6 seconds. Now, I've read on the internet, I've seen videos that make it go from 0 to 62 in 3.5 all the way to 3.8, so it depends on who you listen to. Now, I want to give a big thank you to one of my viewers for letting me borrow his 2-week-old Audi RSQ8. Now, that's a big deal because they're so limited to these cars because of COVID. So actually, there's only a handful that's brought into North America for 2020 model year. Now it's the exact same car and they're gonna badge them as 2021. So thank you very much. You know who you are. Now, what's the big deal about this Audi RSQ8? Well, this is the fastest production SUV that did the Nürburgring in 7 minutes and 42 seconds. Now, what does that really mean? Well, it wiped off the king of the hill, the Mercedes-Benz GLC 63S. So when I think about murdered out vehicles, and murdered out means all black, stealth, fighter jet, this is what I think about. This is the Q8 that's supposed to be the Q8. So when they launched the Q8 in my mind, it was still a little bit like not fully finished. This is fully finished. So let's start on the front of the vehicle. The headlights. On the RSQ8, you get a special dancing headlight. Along with the headlights, they give you this huge front bumper, a huge rear bumper, side skirts, and a lot of RS badging. And this specific vehicle has a ton of carbon. So we have carbon all the way through. We've got carbon all the way on the bottom on both spots. Not just an inlay, you have it wrapping all the way around and up. Audi's given us this single frame grille, single frame octagon single frame grille in high polished black. But I like the fact that they've given us the Audi logo in black, but not only that, they've actually created a border behind it, so when you look at it, you don't see engine compartments, so it's thoughtful and thinking. So in the front grille, they've given us the rhombus, the Audi Sport rhombus, in black RSQ8, or if you say it really fast, RSQ8, 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 RSQ8? Yeah, RSQ8. Now, if you've watched my Audi A7 versus S7 video, I talk in depth about these police interceptors, which in my opinion, they should also install a radar detector, at least get them pre-wired so you can buy a radar detector, plug it in, because this car does, or SUV does, 305 kilometers an hour, or 190 miles an hour. Yeah, you heard me, 190 miles an hour. So Audi's done something really weird in launching this car. You see, normally they'd launch the A series. So as an example, they launched the A6, then the S6, and then the RS6. However, with the Q8, what they've done is they've given us the Q8, and then now a year later, they've given us the RSQ8, and then the SQ8, yeah, it's being dropped as well, but nobody talks about it. We're gonna talk about the RSQ8. So Audi, drop the S8, SQ8 first, and then the RSQ8. Why drop them off at the same time? Because some dealerships are getting this RSQ8, and some dealerships are getting the SQ8. So depending on where you live in the country, you're gonna get different cars. So give us a gap. Get us hyped. I'm hyped. I got an RSQ8 here. Now there's a lot to cover here. First things first, rims. This is a 23-inch wheel. This is the biggest wheel Audi's put on any car they've ever made. So how will this thing handle with so much weight? Well, let me tell you this. You can get it in a 23 and a 22. Same with the Urus. You can get it in a 21, 22, and 23. So you can get a 23-inch wheel in a Urus. But the difference being is that the brakes are the same. This is a 17.2-inch brake system. That is the biggest brakes ever on any SUV. Those are carbon ceramic 17.3-inch brakes. Massive. Now the crazy part about this is this. In the US, when I try to go on the website, and by the way, the Audi USA website totally sucks. And here's the reason. If you get it in gray, it'll tell you nothing about top speed. So the car actually does 155 miles an hour. If you get the blue or the red brake package, that ups you to 190 miles an hour. But here's the funny part. If you want the gray brake system, it's $8,500. But for an extra $500, you get to pick blue or red and you get the 190 mile an hour. Think about that. Why would I spend $500 to get that mile an hour difference? Strange. Maybe you should check your website, Audi America. Now this thing has air suspension, so I leave it in dynamic, which is as low as possible, so it looks slammed and it just looks so mean. I love the way this truck looks. I mean, car looks. I mean, SUV looks. But let's talk about brakes again. This thing has 75 pounds of unsprung weight because the brake is so light. So in terms of rolling resistance, so think about a pedal on a bike. If you start pedaling and it's really heavy, now all of a sudden I took 75 pounds of weight off that pedal and it spins quicker, and that's what these brakes do. So because this has a carbon package, you've got carbon, as I said, in the front grille, the front valence. Also you get carbon on the side mirrors. You get carbon all over the back. There's a ton of carbon here, but there is no carbon on the engine cover. What? So let's go to the back of the vehicle. And this to me is where it gets a little bit close to the Urus. This is more aggressive. However, the front of this vehicle is more calm and not as crazy out there, shark looking like the Urus. But they've done a great job with the carbon, as I mentioned earlier. They've got carbon here, carbon all the way down, and it's got a carbon rear valence all the way down that pulls all the way through. Not to mention, these are real exhausts that are honeycomb. But there's a cash grab, because in Canada, they charge $1,200 for a sport exhaust in black. And guess what? It's actually not $1,200 for a sport exhaust. It's $1,200 for black. This little piece here is actually because of the Lambo. It does absolutely nothing. Yep, it's plastic. It's got no holes in it. It does absolutely nothing except for aesthetics. And because the Lambo has it, we got it. And did I mention these lights? Boom. Also part of the RS is this rear upper spoiler. Now people don't know this, but Audi does a great job in how they construct their bodies. Because if you look at a lot of BMWs or any other German product, they actually have a strip on both sides that go from the top all the way down. But Audi has the best seamless frame welding out there, because if you put your finger here, it's nice and smooth all the way down, right behind these matte upper roof rails. So because this is one of the first RSQ8s in the country, and because I got it from a viewer, thank you very much, I like the fact that I can actually knock these cars and find issues with the car and show you, and not pretend that everything's gravy because you spend $140,000. Like hand-cooked tires. Audi, why are we using hand-cooked tires on a $140,000 car? I don't know, are they any good? It's got tread wear of 180, which means they'll last anywhere between 10 and 15,000 miles, or for the Canadians, between 20 and 30,000 kilometers. Now, are Hankook any good? I don't know. Comment below, let me know. Conti, Pirelli, Michelin, Bridgestone, I've heard of them. Hankook? I might have not heard of them. So this power plant produces 591 horsepower and 590 foot-pounds of torque. That is monstrous, but not as crazy as the guys that already have this motor in other vehicles like the Cayenne Turbo or the Bentayga or the Urus, and are making almost 1,000 horsepower. 1,000 horsepower, yeah, YouTube it. So in North America, we don't use our gas stations to fill up the washer fluid. We use little containers, and those containers, to fill this up, is basically impossible. It's like taking this and trying to pour it in there. It spills everywhere. If you feel me, comment below. So let me address the elephant in the room. So you pick up your brand new RSQ8, you go to your friend's house, and you're like, man, you gotta hear this thing sound. It sounds awesome. Let me rev it for you. So Audi's telling you this car is not for posers. You actually have to drive it. You cannot do parking lot pimping with this thing. Got a lot of room in this RSQ8. What do you think, buddy? 2 blank buttons? 2 blank buttons? What are you talking about? Oh, right there. 2 blank buttons. For those that don't know, these 2 other buttons are for air suspension. So when you're putting a trailer on, because you can tow 7,700 pounds with this thing, which is awesome, you can hit this button and you'll lower the back end. So in the back of the RSQ8 here, and there's a ton of room. There's a ton of leg room for tall people, but not only that, this fully suede headliner actually has a lot of depth they've cut into it. This is the most I've seen in any Audi product. Normally it does have about 1/4 inch, but this thing has about 3/4 of an inch in terms of depth on the bottom of the headliner to the top of the headliner for the extra headroom in the back. But not only that, in the back here, you've got 2 buttons for the windows. You can slide that down. Not to mention the insulated front and back. They're dual pane windows all the way up. And if you want privacy, you pull the same button up again and you get privacy. Why there are 2 buttons, you ask? Well, the right button controls the other side. So if you wanted to put the shade on the other side, you simply press this down and the other side goes down. Now, let's bring the elephant back. In the back here, I've got seat belts with red on the borders on both sides, the left and the right side. However, in the middle, did you forget? Elephant, put your seatbelt on. Wow, this is a beautiful interior. There's a lot of nice pieces here. A lot of the pieces, like the center console, is pulled from the A6 new generation, A6, A7, but there's a lot of RS pieces. As I mentioned, the suede headliner all the way back, but they don't skimp anything. They don't leave anything untouched. So you have the suede headliner that wraps all the way around, all the way inside, even on the back, all the way in the C pillars and B pillars, all the way through. They don't miss a beat. This thing's got extended leather all the way through. So you have Napa leather all the way on the top. Everywhere there's got leather. And it's not single stitched, it's double stitched. So everything has double stitching. The doors, the seats have double stitching. It obviously does have the Audi Sport logo all the way through. These are the RS massage seats at an option. However, they give you full shiatsu massage. You can adjust the seat intensity all the way up if you want it to be hotter or colder, down the seat, up the seat. It can also squeeze you in and open you up on the bottom and your back. Now this has the B&O sound system, which is the Bang & Olufsen sound system with 23 speakers with almost 2,000 watts of power. Now that is a ton of sound that's blasting through these little ears, and I'm gonna go deaf. Audis do interior the best. This is hands down the nicest, most finished interior on the planet. Yes, Tesla might have better tech in terms of how it's displayed, but in terms of fit and finish, it doesn't even compare. There's nothing out there. Even the Urus. I personally don't like the Urus's interior. There's just way too much going on. Not to mention, it doesn't have a seamless look like this one does. This interior, in my opinion, is better than the Urus. Let me know what you think. Steering wheel. This does not have a heated steering wheel. This has a full suede steering wheel, or Alcantara as they call it, and there's no heated. But it is small. I wish it was a little bit thicker, but it's nice that it's a small steering wheel in a car this big. So what Audi's gone with their virtual cockpit, which is hands down the best as I mentioned, is they've gone with two different modes. They've gone with two different displays, the first one being the regular display and the second one being the RS display. Now the RS display gives this sort of old school look, so they've brought that back in. So if you remember back in the 80s and the 90s, domestic products such as GMC really pushed this digital look, and Audi's kind of picked up on that and brought it back, so much so that the RPM meter actually resembles identical the Chevy Blazer S10. Google it. I actually watched the other video with Doug Demora in it where he had a round steering wheel, and I felt that just didn't fit in the car. This flat bottom is awesome. But everywhere else, this has carbon twill matte inlay. So this inlay is not shiny, it's got a matte finish, which is beautiful. And as I said, they've just combined all the materials together. Audi, hands down, you make the best interiors. And in my opinion, the outside of this car is awesome. It's not overly aggressive, it's just beautiful on the inside and the outside. Good job, Audi. But interior storage, got no room. There's no space here for a phone, and that's it. This doesn't open up, but you are the only one in the industry that actually has an armrest that slides backwards and forwards. BMW, you need to learn. It pivots down and up. And check this out. You can actually lock it. Click, 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 drop it, it stops. It goes in and out. Awesome. Another quality piece, a full suede sun visor. But this is actually printed on very, very well. Now I know probably nobody cares about this, but other product, it's actually stitched on and it looks like crap because this is done after the fact. But they spent time. Quality. And they even give you an indent in the headliner that you can easily access it. A lot of cars you can't. You've got to try to find it and pull it down. These little things, I'm telling you, these little things. So what's new in the RSQ8 is they have an RS mode button on the steering wheel. Now Audi says they have 7 different modes of driving in this car. Now, in my opinion, you don't need 7 different modes because the RS mode is basically like a dynamic mode. A dynamic is the most aggressive mode they have. However, this RS is in the blanket of a dynamic mode, and they've got RS1 and RS2. And the difference being is that when you hit the RS button, you get a totally different display. But not only that, the heads-up display gives you the operating temperature, the speed you're driving, the speed you can drive at, and what gear you're in. And that is pretty awesome. Now RS2 does the exact same thing, except it automatically switches off the stability program so you can have some fun with it. As far as the interior information system, I go pretty deep in this in the Audi S7 versus A7 video. However, this does have the ionizer as well as the fragrance button that you can press that only the A8 has. All right, so we're gonna go around a corner here. Wow, this stays so flat. Whew. Welcome to the RSQ8. So, air suspension, right now it's in RS1 mode, which means that it's in its so-called race mode, but with the stability program on. As I said, I don't really find a difference between RS1 and RS2 here by pressing the button. I don't know about the drive, but let's just see. No, it's the same thing. It's just the fact that stability program's off in RS1 mode. But so if you have it in regular dynamic mode, it just shows it the way it is. But as soon as you press the RS button, whether it's 1 or 2, you'll get the whole new cluster in the heads-up display. So I really like the fact that on the heads-up display, it actually shows you the engine temperature, the speed you're driving, the speed you can drive, or the posted speed limit, and the gear you're in, and the RPMs. And so let's talk about steering. Steering is very direct. These are very wide tires, so it's not obviously like, it's direct, but it's not super direct. Like there's still some assisted steering wheel in there. So let's test out this 4-wheel steering, all-wheel drive, 590 horsepower monster. You can hear the rumbling on idle. Very similar acceleration on just a general throttle response compared to an RS7, an older generation RS7. So the V8 biturbos kind of all have it. So in terms of road noise, it's not very loud. I can hear the engine, and I can hear the fact that it's a V8 under throttle, but it's not obnoxious at all. It's quiet in here. Some of the AMG Mercedes guys will say this is probably too quiet for them. The AMGs are definitely louder. Yeah, it lays very flat. So it's got electromechanical sway bars that adjust to keep it as flat as possible. On a straightaway, it's weird. So most cars, suspension, if you put in dynamic or a race mode or whatever mode is the most aggressive mode, then when you're going straight on a straightaway, it's very bumpy and firm, and that obviously makes sense when you're going around corners, that's what you need. But this thing in full sport mode is actually pretty soft on a straightaway. All right, so we're making a left turn here, and let's see how this all-wheel drive and let's see how this all-wheel steering turns. Oh yeah, she's got a lot. Whew. Alrighty. Lots of power. Oh, here we go. There we go. Okay, all right. Give it some gas, buddy. All right, he left me in a cloud of dust. All right, so third gear, 3,000 RPM, foot to the ground, and we are... So there's a little bit of lag off the top there. I wouldn't say as soon as I pin it, I'm moving. I would say I pin it and then I'm waiting for about half a second and then I'm starting to move. And you can tell that because it is boosted, but it's very flat. It lays very flat. Yeah, I feel very confident in the turns. The rear wheel steering, I don't know if you can feel it or not, but I can definitely feel that it's not as heavy as 5,000 pounds. I can feel when I go over certain bumps that I know that the wheels are big, and I can feel that the steering wheel pulls a little bit because the wheels are huge. But around corners, I don't feel like this car is very big. I don't feel like it's much bigger than an RS7. And these seats, I mean, the fact that you can throw your massage seat on, which I will do right now, I can pick stretch, relaxation, shoulder, wave, or pulse. So I will leave it in relaxation. I can set the intensity, as well as I can move the seat in, pivot in or out, and I can set the seat temperature balance, whether I want it more in my back or I want it more in my butt. I'm enjoying my massage here, that's for sure. So when you buy this car, because of the fingerprints, Audi gives you a cleaning cloth, a microfiber cleaning cloth, because if it is sunny out, like it's not now, you can clean it and you cannot see the fingerprints, because the fingerprints will drive you crazy. So that's why you got one of these with the car, and if you don't get one, you need to buy one, because you've got two screens that you're always going to touch and they're always going to be dirty. And if you ever do eat in your car, then the residue from your finger will go on the screen, so you definitely need to clean it. So, like, this thing shifts fast and hard. Like, it shifts fast and hard. So it's a bit cheating, because this thing weighs 5,000 pounds and it does fly 0 to 60, 3.5 seconds. It's super fast, but I know for a fact the real power happens between 60 and 200. That is where the real meat and the potatoes take place, and that's where you feel it, because as I just lean into the throttle there, I can feel this train just push me, and that's where it's at. When you got a car full of people and everybody in the car is getting this swoosh back like a roller coaster or a train, that's where it's at. And the sound. So there's a lot of hate on the internet about, wow, why would you spend this kind of money for a big SUV that does 0 to 100 in 3.5 seconds, but also costs, like this model, 140K. So as tested, this is 140,000 bucks, which is, yes, a lot of money, but if you're looking at a Urus, then not really. The Urus is $100,000 more money, or 120, depends how you equip it. It does 0 to 60 the exact same speed. There's no difference. It is more aggressive. You can get in lime green and crazy colors, but it is exactly the same. Yeah, the interior is a bit more crazy and off the wall, but I like the way the Audi looks. It's quiet, it's clean, it's stealth. And that's most likely why people buy one, because they want something fast, they want something reliable, they want something that people don't really talk about, and that's service. Think about it. If you buy a Lambo, where are you going to service it? You got to take it to the closest Lambo dealer. Well, guess what? Not everybody lives around a Lambo dealer, but most people live around an Audi dealer. On the power. Oh man, it's. I think the last car I drove that actually made the blood on my feet pull back and get a little bit tingling was the Ferrari. Super fast, and this thing did it. Oh my god. It's just got so much power. And it shifts so fast. Boom! And we're in a SUV that weighs 5,000 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, this thing is a beast. Let's see how close we are to a G on the skid pad here. Oh yeah, this is a 0.5 here. All right, now we're leaning into it a little bit, but still a ton of grip, guys, ton of grip. Oh my God. This is a race car on steroids. I do not feel that I'm in an Audi RSQ8. I don't feel like I'm in a big SUV. I feel like I'm in not an SUV. I don't even know what I'm in, but I'm definitely not in a big SUV. That is 100% guaranteed. Urus is 50 horsepower more for $120,000, but not to mention that they nickel and dime you in all the little options. You've got to pay for park assist. You've got to pay for heated rear seats. I mean, those types of options should be standard on something that costs over $300,000 or 200 and change. So in my opinion, if you want something that's a little bit more stealthy, you're not an in-your-face kind of person, and you want something that you can just drive from A to B and not get too much flash, put the kids in the back, put your partner in a seat that massages you, and you get massaged. Why not take a look at the Audi RSQ8? Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to subscribe.